I first got involved with the National Film because my old friend John Laing, who I saw last night at the Dean Spanley premiere, was he and I had gone to university together, and he was always a big film buff, and he got me. I always loved films, but he got me interested in sort of the idea of films, which is a different thing. And he was when he finished university, he got a job at the National Film Unit. I went off and acted for a year on the road doing Shakespeare around schools, a rather thankless task. And he enjoyed himself at the National Film Unit, and he was leaving to go to work for the National Film Board in Canada. And I thought, well, there's probably a vacancy there, and if it's good enough for him, maybe I could get a job there. A sort of informal agreement there was. No one really, it was never stated, but you made one for them. You'd make one for the post office or the railways or the banana company, and you'd make one for yourself. So, but when you wanted to make, I wanted to make a skiing film. I love skiing, but you'd have to dress it up and say, this would be really good for tourism, because our brief was we were part of the tourism and publicity department. So I thought I'd make a skiing film, and I'd say, we really need to push skiing in this country. There's a great future for skiing tourism. So, and then I ran across these skiers, and I heard of this freestyle skiing. And this, of course, is the sort of embarrassing dimension to the film, because freestyle skiing was all new then. There was, and it's what's left of it has developed into a completely different sport. But it was very humble early days, and these six or seven skiers that I rounded up and were happy to be in the film. And the film sort of takes us around New Zealand, or the best sort of skiing spots in New Zealand. It ends in Ngārahoe, and that's the best sequence in the film, because it's just skiing and it's this fantastic landscape. It's my dear old friend Bailey Watson was the cinematographer, and he didn't ski, but I realized we wanted to get a mobile camera and ski with the skiers. And we developed this rig. We'd seen a kind of, in American cinematographer, we'd seen a kind of a thing like it. And we got it built in the workshop. It was basically a kind of aluminium rectangle with a battery at the back and the camera at the front, or you could reverse it if you wanted. So one of the skiers could have this in his rig, and I'd brief him as to what I wanted him to do as he shot, and we'd have a little, Arriflex at the front. And it worked like a dream. All of these films I did at the National Film Unit, which are about 100,000 years ago, I would do them differently now, and I would certainly cut them quicker. They're just interminable, because we were so pleased to get any shot in those days. It took me a while before I sort of worked out kind of more or less how I wanted to make documentaries, and by that time the acting thing had taken over and I left. But I made one or two things that I quite liked. I'd done one film for the film unit. I did a film about architecture, which was terrible. But in the course of doing this film about architecture, which had been sort of commissioned by the Architects Association of New Zealand, I met Ath, who had seemed to me an absolutely fascinating character. I got to make the film that I wanted to make, which was a film about an architect. Ath is a very kind of interesting character, and with all, fizzing with amazing ideas, and he seemed to me to be a completely sort of outstanding New Zealand individual, and I wanted to make a film about him. And subsequently, after that, I got him to design a house for me. So I live in an Athfield house. I still haven't made that decision entirely, but the acting seems to have taken a bit of a precedence in the last 30 years. So I'd go off and, I did a little film for Pacific Pictures, for instance. So I'd go to downstage and do a play or something like that, or and the little film I did, which maybe it's on your archive, is a film called Ashes, which Barry Barclay directed. And Ashes, I played a priest in it. Why he wanted me to be a priest is a mystery to me. But that film was seen by Ian Mune and Roger Donaldson, and they decided they wanted to do a feature film, which turned out to be Sleeping Dogs. But it was Barry's film, and their spotting me in that led to me doing films as an actor properly. So one thing kind of leads to another, and it's been like a weird game of dominoes. One domino flips another one over, and there you'd find yourself doing something different. Well, that domino led me to go to Australia. They'd seen that film, and I went to do a film called My Brilliant Career, and that went to Cannes. And going to Cannes was sort of, I think, probably was the thing that, I don't know, who knows why you get a career. One thing, you're only as good as your last film, and sometimes the last film is pretty crappy, and sometimes it's pretty good.
The beliefs of others are always of interest.
Really? Then tell me this then. Why don't they get in touch? Souls, I mean. Never a word from beyond the grave. You'd think one of them would have given a shout.
Well, I imagine if the Swami is correct, they're all too busy being whoever they've become.
Well, I'm very fond of Dean Spanley. It's a very unusual film. It's a very original piece of screenwriting. I think it's a beautiful bit of ensemble acting. It looks British, but it's essentially a New Zealand film. It's a New Zealand producer and director and art. The art direction, the design is by a New Zealander. It's shot by a New Zealander. There's a New Zealander in it. It's me. Brian Brown's a sort of honorary New Zealander. Dishonourable New Zealander. The New Zealand Symphony Orchestra do the score, written by Don McGlashan, fabulous, and cut by a New Zealander. I don't believe we actually get another chance, even as an insect. I think you really get one shot, and it's best to make the most of it while you can, because I don't think there's going to be another go. So being able to play someone who has an internal dog. Every character should have an internal life, but this particular character has an internal other life. Yeah, I'm very, very moved by that too. And what an actor Peter O'Toole is, that he makes that all possible. He's beautiful. Tour has a sort of quiet authority that's very reassuring, particularly when you're going into a really scary part. This was very scary for me. And it culminates in a sort of 19-page scene at the end where it's really mostly me. And Sod's Law being what it is, that's the first thing we shot. So I walked on the set in a state of mortal terror, but Tour was very calming, and you knew that he had a very clear sense of the dynamics and the measure of performance. I always felt like I was in safe hands. And